Now, shoppers who use buy now, pay later loans will get new safeguards against unaffordable borrowing under rules outlined by the UK government. News that is a victory for Martin Lewis, who's long campaigned on the issue, and he joins us now. Good morning to you, Martin. And I know that the Chancellor rang you to talk about this, didn't she?
Yeah, I got a call from the Chancellor yesterday when I'd been in with her about a month ago, and with my long shopping list of things that I thought needed doing, buy now, pay later regulation was one of them on there. So she called me up to say we're doing it. And the reason this is so pleasing, I was looking back yesterday at my notes. I first gave evidence about the explosive growth of buy now, pay later debt to the Treasury Committee in 2020, saying we need to not make the same mistake we did with payday loans, that when there's a new form of debt and it's growing, we need to regulate it sooner rather than later. We actually got draft regulations from the old government in February 2023, and then tumbleweed, silence, nothing. They just went quiet on it, wouldn't answer any more questions, even though the draft laws are about to happen. So I was delighted when the Chancellor called me yesterday to say, we're doing it. I mean, there's going to be a 6-week consultation, then it goes to the regulator, then there's a year-long consultation. So it's not going to happen until January 2026. But buy now, pay later, which is ubiquitous when you shop online, you're asked, hey, do you want to spread the payment? Which should really be phrased, hey, do you want to get into debt? Because it is a debt. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's interest-free. And if you've got a planned, budgeted one-off purchase that you need to make for something like paying for an emergency plumber or car repairs, well, use it to spread the payment. But it's marketed as a lifestyle choice. It's put on instinct buys. It's even on takeaways. I mean, why would you get yourself into debt for a takeaway? Why do we allow firms to market debt for buying a takeaway? And the reason we allow it is it's been completely unregulated, and it's been a wild west until now.
So, Martin, how is the regulation going to make a difference, and how will it stop consumers getting into debt or help prevent them getting into debt?
Well, the real problem from buy now, pay later comes with people who take out multiple buy now, pay later, and there are no affordability checks. So they come into concert. I'm just looking at the Citizens Advice stats here. 21% have missed or made a late payment. 10% of people were visited by a bailiff due to buy now, pay later. This is why when people don't see it as a debt, they don't realise the consequence. It can mess up your credit score, stop you getting a mortgage. So what the regulation will do is it will first of all make sure that the standard fairness rules apply, that affordability checks apply on buy now, pay later, so you won't be lent the money if you can't afford to pay it back, which stops you getting in trouble in the future. It crucially, and the big thing I was campaigning about on it, means if you have a problem with your buy now, pay later firm, and many do, although many also use it without problems at all, then you have a right to go to the free financial ombudsman, which can then adjudicate, and either it could say, well, you shouldn't have that black mark on your credit file, or you need recompense from the way that you've been treated, or they need to stop chasing you for debts. You have none of those rights at the moment because you are in an absolute Wild West. And it's important to understand, with Christmas coming up, and people use buy now, pay later a lot this Christmas, and frankly next Christmas, you still won't be regulated. So be very wary before using buy now, pay later at the moment. It can work well for some, but it is unregulated. You do not have the standard consumer protections and this thing called the consumer duty, which basically means firms have to treat you fairly. You don't have that on buy now, pay later because it isn't financially regulated like every other form of debt.
It is difficult, isn't it? As you say, Martin, with Christmas around the corner. We had Alana Simpson on earlier. She had got herself into debt by sort of juggling a few of these. She's on benefits. She can't go out and earn money to be able to, you know, pay her way through Christmas. So for her, she was looking at a situation where she was still going to have to continue to use them to get her through Christmas. So it is a tricky time for people, isn't it, when they want to be able to afford presents?
It is. Look, 67%, Citizens Advice saw a 67% uplift in people going to them to ask for help with buy now, pay later last year. Buy now, pay later is very tempting. What you have to ask yourself is, what is going to change over the next 3 months that will enable me to not only live as I currently do, but also make repayments for all these different purchases I've made at that time? What is going to change to enable it to be affordable? And if the answer is nothing, then don't do it. And look, I've long talked about, and I don't want to make it the individual case. I don't know the individual case. But generally, Christmas should not be a retail festival. It's one day. Getting yourself into debt for Christmas will leave you with a miserable new year. So we first of all need to agree no unnecessary present pacts, something I've long talked about. Cut down the list of people you need to buy for. Agree now that I'm not going to buy for you, and then you won't be obligated to buy for me. And especially people who think they're being generous by giving to someone who has less than them. Well, actually, no, you're effectively obligating them to buy back for you. So let's cut down on what we need to buy each other. And I always talk about Christmas, and again, I don't want to talk about the individual. I don't know the individual. I didn't see it. But I always talk about Christmas, that one of the ideas that people have is they have this lust list of perfection, of how do I have the Christmas I want? I'm afraid that the way to keep you happier in total happiness, because you're not going to be miserable with debt in the new year, is to ask yourself, how much money do I have to spend on Christmas? And what's the best Christmas I can have on that amount of money? And that means you won't get the debt or disappointment of a lust list. But for some people, it will mean going Christmas cold turkey, if you like. It is one day. Go and ask the Archbishop of Canterbury. He would be desperately upset to know that people were ruining their financial lives and threatening their well-being and being unable to sleep on the back of having spent more at Christmas than they needed to do so. If you have to, have a nice meal and watch the telly. You know, have your normal meal and watch the telly with friends and family. So borrowing is not a solution to Christmas. It is a problem for Christmas.
OK. Martin, thank you so much. Wise words there.
I love the fact you've got a hotline with the Chancellor as well, that she rings you up to share this news.
I reckon you're going to get a hotline with the Archbishop of Canterbury next. I think he'll be calling you up, thanking you for that. So thank you so much, Martin, as ever. Wise words.